So, after building businesses for the last 7 years, there has been something that has kind of crept up on me behind the scenes that I didn't realize was holding me back when it came to growth and taking that next step to up level in the business. And today we're going to be talking about the importance of building a really good circle of people around you and how that can impact how you grow, your mindset, how you see things, how you see potential opportunities, and really dive into some of the stories that we've got around what it actually takes to build a business and maybe some of the mistakes that we've made along the way as well. So, are you excited for today's episode?
I'm always excited for the episode.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
I've got a question.
Okay.
Can you think of a specific time when you were completely on your own with a big decision to make and it went badly because there was nobody there to challenge your thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I was building the businesses on my own until you came along last year for the last 6 years, 5.5 years up until that point. And it's so isolating. And I'm sure a lot of other people can relate to this of how isolating it can be when you're building a business on your own and maybe you can't afford to take on a co-founder or somebody to run the business with you and you have to do everything on your own. And I've transitioned from a product-based business to a service-based business. But one of the biggest challenges, mistakes, things that I had to face during my time of building the Calming Club, which is a product-based business, self-care stationery brand, was taking on a huge order for the first time, so over 3,000 products on my own in a very short space of time and trying to make decisions about something that I'd never done before, but not really having anybody to ask about it. So I took on an office space, which was on like the third floor of a building, which is completely logistical nightmare in terms of getting all the stock delivered. I had over a ton of stock delivered.
Didn't you have like 20,000 boxes?
Yes, yeah, like a ridiculous amount of boxes being delivered. And I also made the mistake of going for somewhere that was an office block that was under construction, which they did tell me that was going to be finished before I moved in. It was not finished. The lift wasn't working. I had to carry all of the boxes upstairs on my own within like a day of moving into the space. But when you're starting out and when you're trying to figure it out, and obviously you're trying to do things affordably as well, and you're trying to, like, you don't have maybe enough stock or a big enough order to get a massive warehouse, but at the same time you need to find some sort of office space, and I needed to do it quickly with moving deadlines. So I just thought, okay, this will be fine. They've said that it's going to be a lift, it's going to be this, but I didn't really think about the logistics of the building still being under construction and what that would mean for getting things in and out of the building. So I had an absolute nightmare with it. I had sleepless nights. I was figuring out all on my own. Half of the stock got delivered to the builder's yard and the stock was stuck in the builder's yard and I couldn't get it out because they delivered it to the wrong place. I had things go missing, then having to not only get the stuff into the building, I had to get all the products out of the building as well. So Royal Mail having to come and pick up, but they couldn't find the entrance to the building, so I couldn't send it out. It was an absolute nightmare, and it taught me so much around logistics and having to figure it out. But by having to do all of that on my own, and bearing in mind I was packing all the orders on my own with help with friends and family, but it was mainly just me doing it, I had no clue and I didn't have anybody that could support me. So when things were going wrong, I was having to problem solve and do it all on my own. So that was definitely something that was hard to figure out on your own if you've never done that before.
I think as well, you need somebody who's aligned with where you're at and what you're trying to achieve, who really gets it, because you might have spoken to friends and family about what you were trying to achieve and they might have just turned up and just gone with it, or on the third floor, or, you know, that's a bit inconvenient, but maybe they wouldn't necessarily have offered a solution, or you making the agreement wouldn't have really got it because they're not really in your circle as a founder.
Yeah, they definitely weren't looking at it from a problem solving angle. They were just kind of there to help and support. So I was the one going home every night thinking, what am I going to do tomorrow? Because how am I going to sort this out? How am I going to sort out the stock? And I kept getting locked out of the building into the building. So I was like having to deal with all of these different challenges, and every single day was coming up with a different problem that I couldn't even foresee would potentially happen as well. So it was exhausting. Like, it definitely pushed me to my limits of what I could handle, and not having somebody there to support me with that was really, really hard. And yeah, I think it really put me off doing things like that in the future, or at least it taught me a lot of lessons, but it made it really difficult for me to think of it as an option, because I just really hated that process. But sometimes these biggest challenges really point you in a new direction as well, which I think is sometimes needed too. So, but what about you? What was the first time you realised working on your own was a challenge, or more challenging than you thought?
But when I first started working on my own, I guess I didn't make any big mistakes as such, in the obvious sense of, well, I made this decision, it all went wrong. I think it was more of a chronic issue, in the sense that I set something up. I left my job, my full-time job, to set up this education, resource, design and delivery business, which did really well. But the chronic issue was that I was doing it all on my own. And when you were talking about all these boxes and all the stuff you're doing there, and you're getting your friends, family to help out, and no one's kind of you getting into that situation offering you guidance or support, they can't see it. You can't necessarily see it, like you're saying, because you're just focused on making it work, but no one has that lens where they're looking out for you in the context of you being a founder. They're family friends, and they're doing family friend stuff, right? The things that they do. And I found that I was surrounded by friends and family. They were asking how things were going, and that was kind of it. And it was just so chaotic, and I didn't have people in my corner. I felt I could just do everything on my own. So I don't think I made any major mistakes, apart from when I bought a load of crystals. So,
Do you want to explain that story?
yeah. So during the beginning of the pandemic, you might recall there was this surge in the popularity of crystals amongst a whole range of different age groups. So people were going nuts for crystals, crystal healing and all of that stuff. And I'm really into colour, like really into colour. Colour therapy is real. And I just found myself fascinated by these crystals, right? So yeah, I'm kind of looking into it, and before I know it, I'm on all these websites looking at all these like really amazing crystals, and the next thing I'm going to wholesalers to buy a load of crystals. I'm even on Facebook groups buying these rare crystals from these mines in England, which have since closed. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, but looking back, what the hell was I doing? Like, what was I doing? What was I doing? You know, buying all these crystals that are still kicking around the house now.
The interesting thing is, because we've known each other for almost 7 years now, I've seen Graham go through this whole journey of trying out the different business ideas as side hustles whilst you've been like obviously building up to this. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey but the thing is, it's a great example of having an idea and actually taking action on it, but maybe sometimes not like figuring out the next steps after that point. And then it's like, okay, how do I actually sustain this? But I think that's the thing when you're working on your own. And I definitely like was giving you advice and supporting you along the way. But when you're an outsider and you're not as close to it, you don't feel like you can kind of push maybe as hard.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to offend me.
No.
And I'm not saying, you know, I've got a problem here, when clearly I did have a problem, because I'm into this thing. And the problem was that I have historically, like you're outlining, had so many ideas, and I'll run with them to a certain point, and then I'll lose interest and move on to something else, which I'm sure a lot of people watching will relate. I think this is a common thing. And I've got a folder, I talk about this a lot, a folder on my hard drive, my external drive is so full of dead ideas, things that I've had ideas wise that haven't come to fruition because I've not seen them through. And this is the thing, when you're close to people and they know what you're trying to do and you're focused on working on something, those people can call things out because they've got permission to do that. You've given them permission. They have that trust potential. So I didn't have that. I was just in the wind doing my own thing, having a bit of fun, but all the while thinking, I can make some money from this. And then where did it go wrong? I mean, it went wrong in so many different ways, but it was just, again, a chronic issue over time, and it just faded out.
I think the difficulty is for a lot of people is that they will rely on friends and family to, if they're building something on their own, they rely on friends and family to either encourage them or discourage them from doing something. And often they're not coming to that conversation with actual business advice or business knowledge. It's more fed by their insecurities or their beliefs. So they could be like, don't do that, that's a stupid idea. But that's just a reflection of themselves and their thoughts and their success levels of what they think is possible. Or they could be really supportive and be like, go on, do it. Like, you want to do this, like you wanted to do this for a long time, we'll support you and want you to do this. But actually, again, no business knowledge, no background, no research. And I think for you, it was more, you had the idea maybe at the right time, but it took you a while to do it. So by the time you launched it, it was kind of the wrong time because it was more like post-lockdown.
Yeah, it never really launched.
Yeah.
You know, it never really launched, and that's why there's still stuff kicking around the house. I mean, it was just a small venture alongside when I was freelancing, alongside the day job. So I had a lot on anyway.
Exactly.
But I had these aspirations still to do something, and there's been a pattern of me doing that. Like, people who know me really well, when I talk about business ideas, roll their eyes. Not so much now, because now it's absolute go time. It's real, you know. This is different level. We're talking like, you know, back in the day when I was just playing around with stuff because I had the comfort of a day job. But yeah, in the absence of people who are really aligned with you and where you want to be, you're just blowing in the wind.
Do you think that kind of the fact that if they're not surrounded by other business owners and people that are actually living and breathing business, do you think that affects how successful you can be?
Yeah, totally. Because I know so many people think, well, I can do it all on my own, but you can't. You just can't do it all on your own. I think when people start a business and they very quickly realise that they're doing everything, they're doing the strategy. A lot of people miss strategy completely. They're now looking at the potential of personal branding. Well, how does that work? How does that fit into my strategy? My audience, all of that stuff, let alone things like supply, distribution, pricing, margins, all of that stuff. You know, there's just so much. We haven't got to general marketing, advertising. I mean, it just goes on. There's the tech side of things, accounting. I mean, you know, it's endless. Plus the ideas, management of oneself. You know, it's like, it's crazy. You can't do everything on your own. So you need people. I used to think, well, I work better on my own. I don't want anyone getting in my way. I want to call the shots. I want to make all the decisions. Probably like you've been thinking for a while, and then I come in and you're like, oh no, how's this gonna work out? Because it's hard letting go. Have you experienced that with me?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think it's also not like somebody else is, even how, no matter how close they are to you or how they work or how the brain works, they're still going to have a different way of doing things. And I'm definitely a control freak. So, and
yes.
and the business is my baby. So it's like hard to, especially when you built it on your own, you've got a vision for it, to like let it go or hand it over to somebody else or hand part of it over to somebody else. But I think that's the importance of growth, isn't it? You have to be able to do that, but you've got to have the trust there and the understanding there, and give people you can't expect people to do things the way you want them to if you've not given them the right things to help them get there. So it might be like brand guidelines, or it might be an understanding of the style or whatever it is, so that you can deliver it on the way that I think the business needs to look, or the brand needs to look as well. So yeah, I think it's a real interesting one. And I think it's really important to distinguish the difference between, I suppose, being a part of a network of founders and actually having people in your corner as well. Because I think when I was I was a solo founder when I was on my own for a long time, I especially during lockdown, looked a lot to platforms like YouTube and found business owners that created content and learned a lot from them. And I think I took a lot of knowledge and interest and things from them, but it's such a one-way relationship. You're watching and you're not really getting anything back. Like, you're not actually getting actionable feedback from those videos. You can learn about it, but it's very different actually implementing it. And I think that's where people struggle, because they'll watch a video, they'll see 5 tips on how to grow a personal brand, for example. Then they'll try and implement it themselves, but they're doing it wrong because they've not got the knowledge and the insight to do it the right way, but they've got nobody to ask the question to. So what do you think is the difference between having a network or being part of a kind of wider community of business owners versus actually having people in your corner that you can directly speak to?
I would say if you don't have a network that's aligned with your interests, your goals, you're much more at risk of just collecting information. It's not actionable. So if you're surrounded by the right people, it becomes actionable, real world. And I found, thinking back, that so many communities, networks, I felt they were selling to me, and I felt that they were out of reach, really, in terms of me being able to access people, and people who would really understand me and where I was going, people who could give me little hot takes that would make all the difference. Even just some little pieces of advice would be really good. A lot of people would just give some generic information. They'd point to a resource online, and there's an infinite number of resources online. And thinking back, if I had the right people with me, the right network, it would have definitely made all the difference. I would have certainly felt more encouraged, and I would have felt less alone, because I very much had that sense of I'm alone with this, and I think initially that was quite empowering. It's like, oh, I'm the driving seat, I'm doing this, but then you realise this is a lot, and I've just spent more time than I should have done just messing around with other stuff, So I think having the right people, it does all of that. It helps build structure. It makes all the difference.
It's very easy to procrastinate, isn't it, when you're doing it on your own? Like, it's very easy to act like you're busy and do the things that maybe feel safe to you and avoid the scary things, because nobody's actually keeping you accountable to go towards those goals. So you can feel like you're making progress, but actually you're just like redesigning your website for the 10th time and trying to tweak it a little bit. Or you're like doing the things like updating your LinkedIn bio for the 100th time, but actually it's not moving you forward because you're not actually posting content, or you're not actually marketing yourself, or going to networking events, or like getting client testimonials. That you're not doing the things that's actually going to move you forward because you're scared of it and nobody's keeping you accountable. So I think that's a huge thing if you're not surrounded by the right people.
100%. Like, I think about today when I'm doing a pitch deck, and I could have spent a few extra hours doing that, but you were like, "Oh, we've got to get this done," and I'm like, yeah, I'm getting it done, and you're like, half an hour later, are you done with that yet?
I think it's important, like, with things like that, it's that I suppose you can tweak it. I suppose I always go with like the 80-20 rule on that. Like, is it 80% of the way there? Obviously, you can like sweat the small stuff and you can go into all the little details, but often we can spend so much time perfecting things that it may never come to anything. So it's important to, I suppose, I'm always like weighing it up between like, what else could we be doing to move stuff forward? Is it worth putting those extra 2 hours to make sure every pixel is perfect and everything is aligned, or it graphically looks amazing, when actually it'd be so much better just to go on and move on to the next thing that's going to move the needle forward.
I think as well, though, in the way we work, we push each other and we can maintain that level of quality. We just do it quicker.
Yeah.
So when I'd finished that deck, I was really happy with it. I didn't think, I wish I'd done this, but it's gone now.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm really happy with that. So I think it's just about being pushed, having people to push you.
Yeah. I think this is like a side topic anyway. Maybe we'll talk about productivity and managing your time in a different episode. But I think because I've worked on my own and ran a business for 7 years, I've had to become really strict with how I manage my time. So kind of time blocking, setting myself deadlines, being strict with that. Whereas I think you work slightly differently, where you're much more fluid with your schedule and things will move around and you'll always get the work done, but it's a lot more flexible. So it's been like figuring out how we both work together and what works well, like where do we need to set like artificial deadlines to move things forwards, and how do we, but also keep that level. And this is what we spoke about recently, is that level of spontaneity when it comes to content creation and idea generation, because sometimes it's hard to put in an hour block and come up with content ideas when you're not actually feeling creative. It's hard to force that. So I think it's finding a balance between the two, but maybe we'll do another episode on time management and things like that. But it's, I suppose, when you're working with other people, they're keeping you accountable. It's good for them to know how you work and how you work best. So what kind of pressure is useful to put on you? Like, do you like somebody checking in going, how are you getting on with this? Or is that like really annoying? Probably for you, really annoying. But at the same time, it could be you prefer somebody just to know about your goals and you check in with them, and you'd rather do it that way rather than somebody checking in with you and putting that pressure on. So if you have got somebody to keep you accountable, it's good to know how they work or how you like to work so that you can support each other in the right way as well.
So in terms of people putting themselves around others who challenge them, what would you say is the uncomfortable truth about why most founders don't actually do that?
I think part of it is to do with they don't know where to find them. I think a lot of people maybe, or they think everybody else has got it figured out. So they'll look on social media, they'll look on LinkedIn, and they'll think everybody already knows what they're doing. They're way far ahead from where I am. How on earth would they connect with me? Or maybe I don't want to be honest that maybe this is not working right now, or I'm struggling with this. How do I build that level of trust when they could then share it with somebody else? They could be a potential client or know a potential client too. So I think the uncomfortable truth is people don't want to get really vulnerable because they're scared of what that will mean for them and their business. So that's the first step, I think, which is why people aren't doing it. I think people make excuses, and me included, for a long time, saying, I'm too busy. I'm focusing on myself. I don't need anybody else. And I think that is where you can't see your own blind spots. Like, you don't know what you're doing wrong if you're not actually checking in and getting those outsider inputs. Because often, like pretty much every time I have a conversation with somebody else that is in business about what I'm doing, they'll give me a new insight that I would have never have thought of before. So I don't know everything. I don't have all the answers for everything. And I need to be able to have people talk to me from a different perspective, because you're so close to it when it's you. Like, you're too close to it. You need that outside perspective.
This is the biggest thing, right? It's so obvious. We all know that we're too close to it. Yet, ironically, we don't break away because we're held back by lack of confidence. We don't want the feedback. We don't want to be hurt by people.
Rejection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, rejecting ideas, for example. And yeah, we just get too close. We work with people all the time who have been so close to their work that they've just missed opportunities, they're doing something wrong, sometimes really wrong, and they continue and they risk fading away as a result. So yeah, it's a real problem. It is a real problem. And I think, going back to what I was saying about the networks, the communities that I was looking at, not taking particularly seriously back in the day, because I felt I was being sold to, and that those people weren't really aligned with me, and they wouldn't be easily accessible. I wasn't going to get much value out of it, basically. But I think it's really important to really try and find them.
Yeah, definitely. I think some communities, and I think some of the ones that I've looked at, I've been a part of in the past, have all been about numbers, and getting as many people in the community as possible, which is great. And it's great for like meeting and connecting with loads of people, but that real deep connection that you can't really get when there's a room of 100 people. If there's a room of 10, 15, 20 people, you're going to be able to connect with people more, which is why when we've been looking at how we develop our community and our kind of close-knit circle of founders, we've been looking at how we keep it as small as possible while still giving different perspective space and bringing different people in with different thoughts and feelings and insights so that it can be valuable for everybody and they can kind of see themselves in the other people in the group as well. So yeah, I think that's really important when it comes to actually finding a community that isn't going to just be another thing on your to-do list. It's actually somewhere you can go that's valuable.
How would you say that we've developed a good proximity principle?
So yeah, we've not mentioned proximity principle yet, but that's the whole concept behind what we're talking about, which is how you, like the people you surround yourself with is the kind of sum of your success. So how it impacts your mindset, your thought process, how you approach challenges, how open-minded you are to things. And it is really influenced by the people that you've got around you and how they think about what you're doing as well and what they say to you. So for me, it has been, especially over the last couple of years, I think I outgrew a lot of old friendships that I had because they didn't want to see me succeed. And at the time, it wasn't really like obvious. It wasn't really kind of said to my face, but through the kind of things that they were saying and the underlying kind of reactions when I did well, it wasn't supportive. That was sabotaging my success because it was making me think that I was being too loud or being too boastful or being too full of myself, even though that's not in my character and that's not me. And I knew that deep down, but I felt that disconnect between, I feel like they think I'm coming across that way, but actually I'm just really excited about this opportunity I've had come through. And I want my friend to be able to support me with this, or like see that success, because I would celebrate their successes in the exact same way. And I think I didn't realize how much that was sabotaging me and keeping me quiet and small, because I felt like I didn't deserve to talk about it, or I didn't deserve to voice that excitement about the particular thing. So I've really focused on surrounding myself with people that completely get it, are not intimidated by my success, and I'm also not intimidated by theirs. I'm supporting them as much as they're supporting me, and making sure I have the right people around me so I don't experience those feelings and question myself as much. So that's been really important to me. I still think online mentors, advisors has a place, so like listening to people, but I now take a lot more from actually meeting up with business owners and founders and asking them questions and getting their feedback. Feedback is a lot more valuable to me than just knowledge now. That might be the stage of business that I'm at, or it could be just as I've grown and realised the depth of that importance as well. So yeah, they're the things that I've done around proximity. But what about you?
Yeah, completely aligned with that. I mean, we've spoken a lot about feedback and how feedback is research and it allows you to develop, evolve over time, relatively short space of time as well, because in real time you can essentially see people's responses to what you're saying. You can understand why they're asking the questions they're asking, because you can ask them, why did you ask that question? There's a whole range of benefits to doing that. So going to those places where our audience is and the people who can support us are at as well has been really, really useful, and building that into our strategy. And off the back of all of that, on all of this, and the passion we have for helping people build and feel less alone and less stuck and having more fun, what have we done?
We've created the Lucky Founders Club, which is very exciting. So depending on when you see this video, we are launching it in April 2026, and it is a small community for founders who are building incredible businesses, but also want to build their personal brands and maybe feeling a little bit stuck at the moment, and they want to take those next steps and attract those opportunities that really excite them. So we're really excited about that. And it's an invite only club, so you have to apply to join. the reason for that is we want to make sure that the people inside are really dedicated, really want to make this happen. We're not after another community where it just falls flat and it's silent because people aren't adding to the conversation, because we know that these communities are built off the people that are inside them, not about what they look like or the optics or how many people are inside the club. So we're really excited that it's going to be like a real select group of amazing founders. And that's not to say if you don't know us already or you've not spoken to us that you're not welcome to apply, because we'd love to learn about more founders and meet more people who are passionate about this. And if you resonate with this content, if you watch this far in the video, then I'm sure you're probably the right people for us because you've enjoyed this conversation. 100%. And these are the kind of conversations we're going to be having inside the club. So there's going to be LinkedIn Power Hours where you get feedback on your content. There's going to be speed mentoring so you can learn from each other, because it's not all about us. It's about learning from each other in the club. So everybody comes with their own expertise, their own insights. So you get to learn from everybody else. There's going to be opportunities lab. So how do you actually get brand deals, speaking opportunities? How do you get more clients from your content? How can you learn to put yourself out there in the way that is going to actually convert all the hard work that you're doing on content into actual money or sales or opportunities that you want? So alongside that is going to be a place to just chat with each other, support each other, get feedback, all of that kind of stuff. So it's really exciting. We're launching it mid-April. Applications are open now. Waitlist is in the link in the description so people can join. And yeah, I'm very excited. I can't wait for it to start because I know it's been something that we've wanted for a while. And I've ran group programs before, you've ran group programs before, and they are really effective in celebrating each other's successes and bringing people together. So yeah, we're very excited.
Very excited, yeah. It makes a huge difference. It makes all the difference.
Yes. And if there's one thing somebody could do off the back of today's episode that's going to help them with that proximity principle of connecting with people other than joining the club, what would you recommend?
I would recommend for them to, quite simply, just find some networking events that they like the look of. I mean, just go online, look at Eventbrite, go onto Google, find some places that look good. There are loads of places that have free food, some free bars, and are really relaxed. Like, we go to quite a few of those, and they're really, really supportive places where they can find the right people. And sometimes they'll go and they'll think, yeah, that wasn't really for me, but just keep trying, keep looking, keep going. A lot of people just stay at home. They like the idea, or maybe they don't like the idea, more to the point of going to a networking event, you know, because they can feel quite scary. You walk into a room, you're overthinking it, you're future thinking it, and you're not even going to get yourself there. But just go, just find some places, go. There are some small, intimate networking events, there are bigger ones. The small ones I think are great. They're really good because you're not alone. By default, going to a networking event, you will meet like-minded people and people who are nervous about going, but they put themselves there. And the only way you're going to really move forward is if you do this stuff anyway. So it's not really an option. If you're serious about doing it, you've got to do it. There's no sugarcoating it. But just try, just go to places, enjoy yourself, have fun. Like, don't overthink it, just go with a view to having fun. And if you meet one person and have a conversation, which you will, 100% guaranteed, otherwise I'll refund the price of the ticket. Most of them are free anyway. But you'll have one conversation with somebody and you'll come away and you'll know whether, yeah, I'll go there again, or no, move on, and you'll find something that works.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're scared of an actual networking event, or that is like, absolutely no, I wouldn't do that, co-working is a great way to get, like, dip your toe into that. So a co-working day, networking around that. So you take your laptop, you can feel a little bit safe from that, but then there's also the opportunities to network as well. Not as many of those, but they are out there. So it's good to look at that. And we ran one before, which was nice because it brought people together. There wasn't the pressure to chat, but everybody started talking. So you can kind of have that safety net of your laptop being there, and you can like do some work as well, which is good. So
I'll say one thing as well, super quick. So we ran a session at Nottingham Trent University recently, right? And if you remember, quite a few people were talking about how they feel very underconfident about how they explain what it is they do, which we get because it takes a while to refine that message, especially when you're going to different places with different audiences and you're not quite sure what's going to land at any particular time. So it's a process, it takes time. But I would say just go, don't overthink it, and just go and be aware of what you're saying and how you're saying it and the feedback that you're getting, but understand that that will come over time. So I don't think you've got to get it right straight away, because you won't. Just relax.
Yeah, that's a really great tip. Amazing. So we will be back next week with the next episode. Check out Lucky Founders in the meantime, Lucky Founders Club. We are open for a limited time only. So if you watch this video and we are open, then we'd love you to apply if you're a business owner or a founder that wants to build their personal brand and meet like-minded people and chat with us. And we will see you in the next episode.
Amazing.